Hi, everybody, and welcome to the fifth episode of the Magenta Mix Podcast. I am your host, Gary Magenta. I'm the chief pot stirrer at the Magenta Mix. And today we have a very special guest, my good friend, Bill Staikos. Bill is the Senior Vice President and Executive Advisor at Medallia. And for those of you who don't know, Medallia is the global leader in enterprise experience management software. Bill is really known for his ability to envision and execute holistic strategies that transform organizations. And beyond that, Bill's the host of an award-winning podcast, and it's called Be Customer Led. I've been on that podcast twice, so go look up those episodes and enjoy all of them because he has a dedicated following in over 100 countries. He's a pretty big deal. He is the co-founder of Monday Mentor Meetup, and that's a very interesting organization or LinkedIn group, I should say, that's dedicated to helping customer and employee experience leaders and practitioners to advance their individual careers. If that's not enough, Bill serves as a startup mentor at 76 Forward. That's a network of startup incubators, and is the creator of Prediction Fridays. And what that is a newsletter offering forward-looking insights on customer and employee experience. And they think out 5 and 10 years in the future. Bill's also set to publish his very first book on the future of customer experience, and that book will come out in 2024. In today's episode, we are going with Bill on a journey to look at the intersection between purpose, strategy, and culture, the things we always talk about on the Magenta Mix podcast, and add to that customer experience and how they all blend together. So stay tuned for a really thought-provoking discussion with my friend and colleague, Bill Staikos. I promise it's going to offer you valuable insights on how purpose, strategy, culture, and the customer experience come together. Stay tuned. Bill Staikos, it is always good to see you and talk to you, my friend. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. We're dialing in from snowy Northern Virginia. I got about 6 inches of snow today, which is very atypical. Might put a crimp in my golf game this winter, but oh well. How you doing? It's great to see you too.
Winter, sure. What a lot of people who aren't from the greater DC area may not know is that even a thread of snow can shut the entire district down. Is that fair?
I've seen 3 flakes drop and people go into a complete an anarchic state. It's just very
schools
funny,
cut off.
Yeah.
People don't go to work.
Yeah.
Nobody's at Starbucks. Well, I'm glad that you didn't have to travel for this conversation. Bill, you know, what strikes me is that you've had this really successful career in helping to transform the customer experience in big organizations, those that you've been internally at and those that you've consulted with. As you've experienced the intersection of purpose, strategy, culture, and customer experience, what are some of the common challenges that organizations face in harmonizing all of those things? They've put out a purpose or a mission. They've created a strategy. They've defined a culture, and customer experience has to be added to this mix. It can't be easy.
So it's really not. For me, it has always come down to 2 things. 1, change leadership, and 2, change management, right? And, you know, you can, like you said, you can have those things defined. You can do them internally with great, smart people. You can hire great consultants to do those. Everything kind of looks great on paper, but without a right plan on how to take it forward and make that work sustainable, right? Like at the end of the day, it's words on paper. So, and from a change leadership perspective, to me, that is, how are you engaging leaders in your organization who should be bought in and who should be talking about that purpose, that mission, the CX and the design work that all fits together, the culture work in that, how they're showing up every day for their team members, and then obviously, you know, communicating wins, communicating the importance of these initiatives, communicating how, you know, the company expects people to show up as well, and how they should be emulating those leaders' behaviors too. That to me is really where, you know, that sort of connective tissue comes in the change component. And unfortunately, sometimes I should say, so much effort goes into defining all those elements, and then very little time is spent on, okay, we're launching or we go live on January 1, whatever that is. And sort of they let sort of the, the pigeons out of the cage, and then they expect them to fly and like come back and do what they're supposed to do. But that really isn't the case, right? So that's why giving people tools and frameworks to continue to evolve, like live in this new reality and help and showing them what that should look like every day. That's really, really important. And that's where some of the biggest breakdowns happen.
Yeah, I just want to unpack this a little bit more because I
Yeah.
agree with everything you're saying. And I want to sort of recite it back in really simple terms. What I'm hearing is you can have a great plan. You can spend money with great consultants. You can have your internal team that designs it. You can have a great plan in place. But if leaders aren't actually doing that, leading the way, if they're not going first, if they're not being very demonstrative in the new actions and behaviors, your customer experience plan, your purpose, your strategy, your culture aren't going anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, they're just words on a page, right? And look, I'm a big believer in the ADKAR model. I'm a big believer in Kotter's work. I study both of those to the gnat's eyelash level of detail, right? And at the end of the day, your employee's behavior is your customer's experience, and your employee's behavior.
We're going to pause you. Let's just do that again, slowly and very loud, one more time.
Yeah, your employee's behavior is your customer's experience, right?
Bam.
And
you can leave now just with
yeah,
that.
we'll end the show right here. Mic drop.
Yes.
I look, a friend of mine, Zach, actually said that in a room. He credits that to a friend of ours. I have no idea, but it's something that I really do believe in. That and the point around, your company's culture is what you reward. So when you think about sort of broader change management, not just sort of awareness and desire and knowledge, if you think about the ADKAR steps, really creating sort of that fire behind that vision, making it clear to folks, what the expectation is, connecting it to their day-to-day role, and then, sustaining an acceleration of that, sustainment is so critical. And the work that goes into that, I just think organizations don't give that enough weight, particularly in these kind of big transformation type initiatives.
So let's dig into this for a second, because there's real connectivity here. And that is, if your culture is what you reward, and when you think about what we're rewarding in culture, we're rewarding behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
And your employees' behaviors is your customer experience.
Yep.
We have a very strong connection here that I want to highlight for our listeners and our YouTube viewers. Really, really important here. What it's saying is you have to be very deliberate about what you're going to reward, because ultimately those rewards will translate into the actions and every action and every interaction we're having with every customer every time.
Yep.
Good. Now let's go back. Let's tie that now. So, okay, how does that actually connect to our purpose and our strategy?
So look, if you think about the organizational purpose, right? How you show up every day, what you all believe in, the values of the company, right? Why you exist as an organization, right? There are behaviors that as a company, you want to be able to exhibit every day when you're engaging with your customers or when you're engaging with the workforce in the company, right? And I, by the way, I will use workforce more than employees, because not everyone's a W-2, as we would say here in the U.S.,
and
right?
More and more, we've got
100%.
Yeah.
So, okay, if this is who we want, this is who we think we are, right? This is our purpose in life and our existence as an organization. Here's the strategy as a business that's going to help us get there. You need to design experiences that help you achieve that strategy. And that's also a trick that a lot of organizations do not get, right? I think many businesses see experience as, what's my NPS and what's my customer satisfaction score, right? And that's not experience. You can design experiences that help you achieve your business strategy, right? There should be no daylight, frankly, between what your customer expects of you, because this is what you've told them who you are, right? And why you show up every
Well, you
day.
say told them, and I'll just go one step further, if I may, and say,
Yeah.
this is what you've promised them.
Yeah,
You have
exactly.
made
Yep.
your strategy and even your purpose are promises that you're making.
That's right. This is how we're going to show up every day. And when that doesn't exist, right? When you don't show up the way that you've promised to your customer, when that experiential gap exists, over time, well, depending on the severity of the experience, obviously, but over time, right, you will erode trust in your organization because you're not saying what you said you would do, right? Just like any relationship you and I have in our personal lives,
Right.
right? If someone keeps on emptying the trust bucket every day because they're not doing what they said they were going to do, sooner or later there's nothing left there, right? And people move on. And I don't know if you want to get into it today, but like I actually think that with sort of the rapid evolution of technology and digital, loyalty becomes less and less of a thing for people. I think there's going to be like just deterioration in loyalty. We're already starting to see it in consumers as well, and I think that rapid deterioration in loyalty is due to digitalization of experiences.
I wasn't planning on getting into that, but let's do it because it's a
Cool.
great topic, and we're somewhat aligned on that. However, I have some hope. So,
Me too.
So there's no question that when we take the human interaction out, loyalty breaks down, because my belief has always been, Bill, that we are not actually, loyalty is not completely brand based. It's based on the people who represent the brand.
Yeah,
So
100%.
there are brands and retail experiences that I know I'm very loyal to, but when I talk about the brand, I talk about Tony or Barbara
Yeah.
that are specifically reaching out to me saying, hey, there's something here I think you'd like, or I was happy holidays. There's a relationship built with the person. And there's even a store here in Naples where I'm this time of year where my wife or I will say to each other on a Saturday, well, let's go see Tony and grab lunch. See Tony is code for my wife buys shoes at Gucci. So it's see Tony, right? But we do associate it with Tony. And so there is that erosion. Having said that, I feel you and I are somewhere around the same generation, although I'm a second or two older than you. When I look at the way my 30-something kids are purchasing, I do see loyalty being built by the reliance on consistently good technology that anticipates the need. So I see their loyalty being built a little bit differently. So my hope is that organizations who really think about the technology as a human interactive experience, that there's a human on both sides of that technology, those who are designing and programming it, and the users, as they think about that UX or user experience, that they're building loyalty because they've anticipated your needs.
So I won't mention the brand. It's a big technology company, but they recently came out with research that said 9% of enterprise businesses are driving personalization in their experiences through intent and predictive analytics. 9%, right? So when you think about the brands of your children, and my children are even younger, right? They're 11 and under.
Yes.
They're being influenced in ways that your own kids and certainly us were never influenced. I see it all the time. And we have to, as organizations, we have to really move past the personalization is my first name on an email, right? Like we don't believe that is personalization anymore. And I'm with you. I think that there's going to be a reckoning around which experiences or journeys can we automate, right? And which ones absolutely we cannot, right? So you would never automate the foreclosure on a house, right? You need to talk to somebody, right? And nor should any bank automate that process. But that being said, you can probably start to automate aspects of financial advisory, as an example, or the retail experience in some way. And I think that there's a lot of room for exploration there still. And hopefully brands are going to be investing in it this year.
So let's give you a little example of that. Netflix is very good at recommending what you might like to see based on the algorithm and sending a direct to you that says, hey, we think you'd like.
Yep.
It was a case in point last night. Netflix emailed and said, based on your profile, we think you like this. And we loved it. There's a documentary that we binge watched, it's 3 parts. We binge watched this thing to the end on a school night. And it got late. But we actually talked about this, really appreciated, we being my wife and I really talked about the appreciation of, it was absolutely up our alley. They said it was a 95% match. And that's a cool add-on because other services don't necessarily do it or do it with that same level of personalization and accuracy. And it wasn't, hi, Gary, you like this, as much as, hey, try this. Forget it. You don't have to call me Gary in this one.
Yeah, that's right.
We think you're going to like it. And they hit it. They anticipated it and they hit it right out of the park.
Look, they invest so much in that piece of engagement to you and their viewers. Spotify does the same thing. Spotify's digital AI DJ actually is pretty incredible. Like, I listen to him more than I listen to my own music now because they're just curating this list of amazing music for me. That's the expectation gap that gets created, right? When you have the Spotifys and the Netflixes of the world, all of a sudden my experience with them, I'm like, why isn't this showing up anywhere else in the brands that I'm buying from? And maybe that's where sort of, your kids, the 30 somethings and younger, are going to start to say, you know what, I want brands that are going to be surfacing information, content, clothes, whatever that is, that curation needs to happen more and more. And I think that's where this is going.
Well, I think it's part of the success of TikTok because it's that I know you and I may not, fall into the typical TikTok category, but I'm hooked. Like I spend
awesome.
more time on TikTok now than I do on television, and I am a reality show junkie, but my decompression time is TikTok because it feeds me. To me, it's still how do you know that I want to see that?
Yeah, it's the 9-second journey. That's what it is.
The 9-second journey. It's not only is it that it's quick, it is that, oh, wow, I'm absolutely interested in this. Now, the content that I get is somewhat embarrassing, that I don't know necessarily what I share, but I have a friend of mine who works for TikTok internationally. He's back and forth from China, et cetera. And we're out to dinner in Dallas recently, and he said to me, if we saw your TikTok, what would it say about you?
Oh my gosh.
I said, it would say that I was a 40-something-year-old domestic diva because it shows me home improvement and cooking. Those are the 2 things that just show, and those are actually 2 things that interest me the most. So I get 50% reels on, reels is the wrong term there, but and the other is what room has been remodeled, whether it's structural or decor. And those are actually the things that I'm always interested in.
That's funny. That's awesome.
I think the loyalty that I have towards that is that prediction that I spoke about before, and why I have some hope for loyalty. It just requires, for some of us who have been consumers for decades, a readjustment of what loyalty looks like. And for a new consumer that's coming up, like your kids and those that have grown up digitally, like my kids, there may not be that same anticipation or requirement, except when we run into a problem. So I want to dig into that. I think, that human experience now really being available when there's a problem, and we're done with the AI loop, which still isn't perfected yet, where it's not giving you the right answer. So let's just think about this. Organizations have values. Many of them have values that most of their team members can't recite very easily. They have values, and I think the values are really in place there so that there's a North Star for how we show up, but it's also, again, how we value our customers and the experience of presenting. So I know as you host your podcast, and everyone, it is a must listen to, must watch. It's called Be Customer Led, as I said in the intro. You have come across various perspectives on the relationship between customer experience and values.
Mm.
How do you see these two aspects influencing each other? The values that we say we stand for and the customer experience we deliver, especially in times of stress or where our customers need resolution with a person.
Yeah, I look, I lived this firsthand through COVID when I was working for a company called Freddie Mac, where I mean that was one of the most stressful times in our history, right, as a nation. But we went back to what were the values of the company, and then we brought those values into our design standards. And if we were creating new products, new solutions to meet up with whatever the new normal was shaping to be, and it felt like it was something new every month,
Sure.
we always went back to those values and how we embedded them in the design standards and used those as the very foundation for product development, communication, technology decisions, sales decisions, customer support decisions. That is really tough to do and to maintain and sustain. I'm not saying that it's easy work, but if you can embed your company's values into your design philosophy and your design standards, that can have a fundamental impact on the experience that is being delivered every day to your consumers. Because that if you're showing up, if your values are showing up in the designs and the experiences and those journeys, that little trigger in the back of our heads as consumers is constantly firing off and saying, yep, there's a connection here. And here's why I buy. And here's why I feel this way when I buy from this brand and why I'm buying from Tony, those Gucci shoes.
Yeah, Tony.
So like that to me is a really important part that I think a lot of great designers understand and do. Just not everyone does it.
Yeah. I always feel that the experience that I receive, especially in times where there's resolution needed, I'll be dramatic and say in times of crisis when dealing with a company, the experience I receive is a direct reflection to the values and or how they've been brought to life
Mm-hmm.
or not. I don't think any company intentionally creates bad values. That sounds ridiculous. They're all good. It's how well they've inculcated those values into the everyday actions and behaviors of their team members, especially in crisis. I think during easy times, it's easy for us all to live the values. It's when pressure is applied, are we able to live them during those difficult moments?
And I think, look, there's a lot of companies also now saying, how do we leverage technology, artificial intelligence, and even generative AI included, to help us sustain and live those values, right? If you look at hospitality as an example, where you have like a really poor situation, whatever that might be, let's just say you're a business traveler. I'm sure you've seen your fair share.
Also, my background in education is in hospitality. So
there you go. Right. So if you think about using technology to be able to deliver a level of service recovery that you did not expect. There could be at the end of that service recovery journey, there could be a human delivering whatever that is that you needed to fix your problem. But 90% of that was augmented, right, through technology or automated.
And even if it's not automated, that it's accelerating the process. In my example, it's a great point. Delta Airlines has done a great job of this, and I worked with them years ago, and I've worked with a bunch of different airlines, but they have done a really good job on this. I had some issue, I don't remember what the issue was, but I was in flight recently, and I don't know if it was a seat issue, but it was minor, and they're always great. So big props to Delta. American and United, the three that I fly the most, have all got some good things going on. But the flight attendant poured a drink over me, and I was in dress clothes on my way to an appointment. Okay, in the last 30 years of flying for business, that's happened more than I'd like to say, and it happens. Very nice guy. What can I do to help you? Can I visit? I'm fine. I really was. And he shows up with his handheld, and he said, I want to put some points in your account. Do you have your number? So he wanted to give me miles right there in the moment, which was awesome. I didn't accept him, by the way. He was so gracious. I didn't feel like I wanted him to be seen as having to do, anything punitive against him. I didn't accept him. I thanked him profusely. But what I was reminded of in that moment is that Delta empowered him to resolve something in the moment with the use of technology to do it.
Yeah.
And so while it wasn't AI, it was a technology assist,
Yep.
and I totally appreciated it.
So here's a non-tech example really quickly. That's happened to me on Singapore Airlines. And Singapore Airlines has top 10 things that could happen to customers and what specifically you should do as a flight attendant or other employee to resolve it. And I was flying to Singapore from New York, and same thing, wine on the shirt. The next day, a brand new shirt, they said, what hotel are you staying at? A brand new shirt was hanging at the hotel on the door. I mean, really incredible stuff.
And we'd expect nothing less than Singapore. And so let's just talk about appropriate customer experience for the level. You're on a $13,000 international 20-hour flight, and I'm on a 40-minute Charlotte to Atlanta deal, right? I paid $235.99 for the ticket.
Yeah.
Absolutely proportionate.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Potentially. Yeah. And it wasn't wine for me. It was probably club soda. But really good examples. And so when I think about examples and I think about you, you've got a new book coming out.
Yeah.
The future of customer experience. So what are some of the examples or sneak peeks that we can anticipate in the book?
So there's a couple of things, in the CX discipline. One of the things that is just a bug for me is that we don't think about the future enough. And even if you think about sort of just the rapid evolution of even Gen AI over the last year, there's CX leaders, whether you're a chief experience officer or whether you're the head of CX or whether you're working in a CX team, you really need to be trying to figure out how to peek around corners. So in the book, what I talk about is how the skill set for customer experience teams are going to evolve. We're going to be moving away from surveys. Surveys in the next 5 to 10 years will be completely dead, right? They'll be more conversational in nature, right? Fundamentally, they'll change. We'll have access to an exponential number of data points. When your wearable is recording everything around you in a physical space, even physical experiences are now digitized, right? So the skill sets are going to fundamentally change. Being, extended reality design, financial expertise, systems thinking. I go through a lot of the skill sets, how they will evolve and why. I also go through technology like no code, low code, and how that's going to change our experiences as consumers, right? Right now, it's a very B2B driven technology. You and I will be able to talk, not type, and develop applications that will benefit our lives by mashing up different technologies because we see the need, right? So that's and those are new and different experiences for us as consumers. So I take a 2030 view on how all this is going to evolve, not necessarily from the company perspective and what they need to do, but really from the lens of how this will change for us as consumers, and what it might look like if you are a company that you need to now face this new reality, what skills you're going to need in your organization to do that.
Yeah. Interesting. Do you have a name for the book yet?
I do not. Maybe I'll ask ChatGPT for it.
Yeah. So we can go down a whole rabbit hole with ChatGPT. I'm now doing the paid subscription version. And as a solopreneur, it's been a godsend. I love it.
Yeah, you should check out Microsoft's
experience with that technology right now.
Microsoft's Copilot leverages the paid version of ChatGPT, and they can also develop presentations for you all for the same amount. So I'm like, I may switch over to Microsoft's version. We'll see.
Thanks for the tip on that. All right. So in our last remaining few minutes here, you are absolutely one of the leaders in customer experience, engaging others, really helping organizations transform. And you're writing a book on the future of it. So let's just go out there to the future. Sure. If we were to go away. Let's say you and I went into hibernation for 10 years and came back
Oh
a
Lord.
decade from now, and we went about our daily consuming B2B, B2C, B2B2C consumption. What can we expect that will be dramatically different in 10 years about customer experience?
Well, I don't even know if I need to go out 10 years. Oh, you'd probably kill me. It would just be you coming back, by the way, Gary. I think I'd
Well,
be gone
we weren't
long
going
before.
into hibernation together. We
Yeah.
each in our own province.
I thought that's what you meant. Like you and I would get, go
Oh,
in
geez. I
some
mean, I
bear
like
cave
you, Bill,
somewhere.
but I'm not sure I could do 10 years in solitude with you.
No. I think that in the next couple of years, with the advent of digital agents, and the advancement in the technology there. I mean, even ChatGPT is supposed to be coming out with their kind of version this year. Rabbit just came out with one. The guy who worked at Apple, I forget the little clicky wearable thing.
Yeah.
I think that let's just say 5 years. In 5 years, you're going to have your wearable. It'll be on your head. It'll be glasses like. It won't be like the Google glasses, but it also won't be like V1 of Apple's Vision Pro either, where you're going to be interacting with a digital agent and they are going to be interacting on your behalf, making recommendations for products, buying products for you. What's going to be interesting about that is how the evolution of the term and definition of what is and who is the customer is going to fundamentally change, as well as the employer of the workforce, right? Because if Microsoft has an agent that's interacting with my agent, who's the company or who's the employee and who's the customer?
Yeah.
We may never even interact with brands, right? Apps, they're all gone, right? You don't even need apps at that point. So that to me is where this is going really, really quickly. And that's where my point around sort of the deterioration of loyalty. If an agent is surfacing, they're going to know what you like, and they'll probably keep on surfacing those brands. But if they're introducing new brands to you based on your viewing on Netflix or your TikTok account, you could be introduced to new brands that you never would have seen or experienced in your whole life, and you may become loyal to that brand pretty quickly. So that is really going to change a lot in, let's say, the next 5 years.
So thank you for the perspective. We're eager to help you name the book and to get the book. And I do want to go again, sort of share this loyalty piece. Amazon has partnered, I think, with Hudson News in some of the airports and on the retail store. And it is a palm print that you register for. And then the gate swings open and you just go take your product and walk out the other side.
Yeah, it's in Charlotte.
Yes, there's one in Charlotte. There's no human action. There's one in Vegas. I was in Vegas business the other day. They're popping up. And I had signed up for it, I think, in all places, maybe Nashville. I was doing a speech in Nashville. And I signed up. And of course, one of my sons is like, you don't want people having your biometrics. And I'm like, yeah, if it gets me to the Cheez-Its quicker, I do. So totally. So I will just tell you now, I'm seeking this out. I'm seeking out the palm print. Go in. There's 1,000 cameras in the sky in the store that track you and goes right to your account. The biometrics tells them who you are and charges you for it. So that Hudson News experience, I never thought twice about Hudson News before. Who's selling a Diet Coke or Cheez-Its or a Pop-Tart or wherever I want to indulge in the airport? Go there and get it. Now I'm seeking that out. So again, you and I need to come back and talk about this idea of loyalty, because the technology here, the future, because to me that is the future. The future is dictating some loyalty without the human experience. Where yesterday's world it was, and maybe still is in luxury brands and others, let me go see Tony. I don't need to hang out with Tony at the airport. This is a convenience buy, not a luxury buy.
Transactional, yeah.
Yeah, transactional. Bill Staikos, thank you so much. I encourage everybody, please follow Bill and the Be Customer Led podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And if you do that and connect with him on LinkedIn, I know you will get the title and the launch date of the new book on the future of customer experience. You're awesome, Bill. It's always good to see you.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful to see you, Gary. Thanks so much for having me on the show. Was absolutely floored and humbled when you asked me. Always great to talk to you and see you. And we'll bump into each other in Charlotte or somewhere at some point pretty soon. So
you were very generous to say that. I think we're part of the Mutual Admiration Society. So looking forward to seeing you soon. For those of you here, remember you can get podcasts the last Tuesday of every month for enjoying the Magenta Mix podcast. Download wherever you get your podcast from, and you can watch us and see our handsome faces today on YouTube as well. So thank you, everybody, and we will see you again next month. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.